Well, welcome everybody to the online portion of this. If you happen to watch it at a later date, we'll share our screen. 2 Samuel 23. Now we will eventually get back to the narrative towards the end of the class, which will be in 2 Samuel 3. But for right now, we're in 2 Samuel 23.
If I recall from last week, the video described the last chapters of 2 Samuel, something about appendix.
Correct. Yes. In fact, that's partly what we're doing today. Is we're going to go make. Most of this is about David's mighty men, and so the list of names and places is the names of his mighty men, which are kind of like his A-team, his Navy SEALs, that kind of thing. His elite troops. So it's that appendix. Okay. So yeah, here we are. You see 2 Samuel 23 on the left, 1 Chronicles 11 on the right, and then the verses the respective verses are underneath. I'm going to be reading through the 2 Samuel. Okay, but if you want to follow along, I'll make references to the other as we go along. Okay, 2 Samuel 23, verse 8. These are the names of the warriors whom David had: Josheb-Basshebeth, a Tachmonomite. He was chief of the three. He wielded his spear against 800 and he killed at one time. Now that Josheb-Basshebeth means he who sits on the seat. In 1 Chronicles 11, he's known as Jashobeam. Now Jashobeam means let the people return. Don't know how that reference is. It's, the Chronicles were written down many years after the rest of it. So keep that in mind. But you'll see that this Josheb or Jashobeam was he was either a son of Hakmonai or he was from he was a Tachmonite. They both are the same word. They come from the same root, which means wise, and so it just means those things mean wise. So we'll go on to the next one. Verse 9. Yes.
Just It's interesting that on one side 800 were killed, the other side 300.
Right. Well, First Chronicles or the Chronicles, remember when they tell stories about David, everything is in a positive light, or most things are in a positive light. So there is probably some exaggeration. Yeah. Over time, remember the Chronicles were written many years afterward. It was told orally, and so it's like a phone, game of telephone. As the story goes along, it's like that fisherman. Like he went out and caught that fish that big. Well, as the story goes along, that fish is bigger than he is, kind of thing. So that's kind of what's happening. Okay, yeah, we all like stories about ourselves where they make us more important than we really are. Okay. Verse 9, next to him, among the three warriors, was Eleazar, son of Dodo. So Dodos did exist, see? Son of Ahohai. He was with David when they defied the Philistines who were gathered there for battle. The Israelites withdrew, but he stood his ground. He struck down the Philistines until his arm grew weary, though his hand clung to the sword. The Lord brought about a great victory that day, and the people came back to him, but only to strip the dead. So, so Dodo means uncle, and I have to make a reference to that because in a few minutes you're going to hear a name that means mom's uncle or mom's brother. Sorry, mom's brother. Dodo is a generic term for uncle. Mom's brother is a specific term for a particular uncle. So, just giving you a heads up there. Ahohai means brotherhood. So, we take that what it means. In the Chronicles, there's a name, he was with, they give a name of where the Philistines had gathered there, and that's Pasdamim. Remember that I-M on the end of a word means plural, it's plural, it pluralizes that. So Pasdamim means border of blood. That gives the inference that it is a mingling of blood. There were many people that died there. So wherever that is, we don't know. So verse 11. In 2 Samuel 23. Next to him was Shammah, son of Agi, the Hararite. The Philistines gathered together at Lehi, where there was a plot ground full of lentils. Now the Chronicle says a bar, but the army fled from the Philistines, but he took his stand in the middle of the plot, defended it, and killed the Philistines, and the Lord brought about a great victory. AG means to flee. Harar means mountains. Man, how would you like a name like that? Mountains. We don't know whether Harar is an actual name of a person or a place. We just know that Shammah was a descendant of Harar, whether that be where he was from or where, who his ancestor was.
Mine says.
If you had a plural of AG, like AGs, would that mean you many fleas?
Many fleas. No, I like to have the meanings of names. They kind of give me an idea of how to remember them, but also, it makes me wonder why did their parents name them? So, yeah, Hararite. You've heard the term Levite. The descendant from Levi. So, as a Levite, it would be descended from a particular person, but a Bethlehemite would be someone who came from a place, Bethlehem. So that's the difference. So Ike really doesn't help us determine whether it's a person or a place. This is a little map here, just kind of show you. See, Lehi is listed on there, at least where most scholars believe it may have been located. I put this up here as a reference to where things were located. You'll see Bethlehem down here, so that kind of gives you an idea. So they're in the south kingdom of Judah area. You see some other familiar names there. Kiriath Jearim, that's where Saul went to save them early on in his career. You'll see Adullam down here. That's where David spent a lot of time in the wilderness out there. So gives you just an idea, and Gibeon up here. So okay, well that's why I put that on there. Verse 13. Towards the beginning of harvest, 3 of the 30 chiefs went down to join David at the cave of Adullam, while a band of Philistines was encamped in the valley of Rephaim. I'll get back to that in a moment. David was then in the stronghold, and the garrison of the Philistines was then at Bethlehem. David said longingly, "Oh, that someone would give me water to drink from the well of Bethlehem that is by the gate." Okay, before we go any further, I want to make mention of this valley of Rephaim. This is where the Philistines happen to be encamped in this particular story here. Rephaim comes from the same root word as Rapha, R-A-P-H-A. Rapha was a ancestor of this famous person we remember by the name of Goliath. Goliath was a son of Rapha. And it's mentioned that there were giants in the land, and Goliath was one of these giants. And it's believed, we have no truth, okay? But it's just believed that Rapha was, the genes in there made him big. We don't know. When we hear the story of David, we hear that when David went out to face Goliath as a young boy, he drew 5 rocks from the dry riverbed there. Why 5? Was it that he wasn't confident? No, the scripture there says that he was very confident, but why 5? Well, we're going to find out, at least some of them today, that there were 4 other men of Rapha. And so they're called Goliath's brothers. Okay? So there is this idea that David drew 5 rocks, at least a theory, that David drew 5 rocks because there was a possibility he was going to have to face the other 4. Okay, just a thought out there. So there's again no proof, no physical proof, just theology. Verse 16. Then the 3 warriors broke through the camp of the Philistines, drew water from the well of Bethlehem that was by the gate, and brought it to David, but he would not drink of it. He poured it out to the Lord. So a drink offering through that. For he said, "The Lord forbid that I should do this. Can I drink the blood of the men who went at the risk of lives?" Therefore, he would not drink it. The 3 warriors did these things. Okay. So
What does that mean? The 3 warriors drank the
They-
water?
they
went
God. They risked their lives to go and get it. So,
If you would drink it, how much they would tax it?
right. Well, everything's bitter, but at this point, we'll find out here in a little bit that this ain't the first time he's refused drink. Okay. Maybe it's part of his fasting. I don't know. But it's not the first time David will refuse, or it's not the only time.
Well, it's interesting, those two are almost identical scriptures.
Yeah, yes, almost verbatim.
Yeah.
But in my research, I was trying just to put all this together, and sometimes it was hard to match them up, but in other cases, they match up very, very easily. Okay, on to 18. Now, Abishai, son of Zeruiah, brother of Joab, and Joab was chief of the 30. With his spear, he fought against 300 men and killed them, and won a name beside the 3. He was the most renowned of the 30 and became their commander, but he did not attain to the 3, meaning he was considered the most skilled of all of the 30 warriors David had. He was 18. Okay, he was the most skilled, but he was not. He either was not allowed or refused to be a part of that 3-man team that was responsible for everything. But he did become a commander. So I would think that he's humble. That he knows he's skilled, but he's not going to put that above being part of the brotherhood of the battle brothers. Verse 20. Benaiah, did you have something? Okay. Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, was a valiant warrior from Capzeel, have no clue, a doer of great deeds. He struck down 2 sons of Ariel of Moab. He also went down and killed a lion in a pit on a day when snow had fallen. Lions in the snow. There's an image. And he killed an Egyptian, a handsome man. Now, over on the right side, you'll see he killed an Egyptian, a man of great stature. It's the interpretation, depending on who interpreted as to what that meant. So, and you'll also see that on the Chronicles side, it said he's 5 cubits tall. And we find out that 5 cubits is equivalent to about 7.5. He played for the Washington Wizards. The Egyptian had a spear in his hand on the Chronicles side, like a weaver's beam. Now, anybody else remember who had a spear like a weaver's beam? Goliath had a spear like a weaver's beam. So this is one of the sons of Rapha, or who they believe is one of those other 4.
Okay.
But Benaiah went against him with a staff. Hey, look at that. Snatched the spear out of the Egyptian's hand and killed him with his own spear. So Benaiah means Yahweh builds up. Jehoiada means Yahweh knows. Kabzeel means God gathers. Ariel means God's lion. So that's kind of a neat, we get this name, the 2 sons of Ariel of Moab, as Benaiah killing them, but he also went down and killed a lion in a pit on the snow. So a lot of killing lions here.
Already in a pit, too.
Yeah.
Okay,
I lost my mouse here.
Jeez.
I mean, it'll let me scroll, but it won't let me. Okay. Such were the things Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, did, and won a name beside the 3 warriors. He was renowned among the 30, but he did not attain to the 3. David put him in charge of his bodyguard. So this is another one who was one of the most skilled, but did not attain. He did not either refused to or was not allowed to be one of the top 3.
Mike, do we assume that person who wrote down First Chronicles, writing it down based on an oral tradition?
I would say both oral and written, because
Do
eventually,
you think they had access?
yes, I do. I believe the Chronicles were written down after the temple had been rebuilt, after the exile, after they'd come back. And if y'all remember, well, if you've read Ezra or Nehemiah, as they're coming out of exile, they find the old books. And that's what I believe is going on, is a chronicler took those books and made another history. He tried to record it as best.
because these are, again,
Correct, correct. Yeah, and you're gonna find that, you'll find it more often than not. That they're identical, very few words change. I will say there are times when you'll see. In the English, when we're trying to put God or the name of Lord, in here. You'll see Lord capitalized, all capital letters. But then other times you'll see a capital L, little O-R-D. You might see differences like that. Well, they make those distinctions in English because capitalized L-O-R-D is Yahweh. But capital L, little O-R-D means master or sovereign. So, can we go on? Question. Okay, scroll. Among the 30. Here we go. Let me get a good breath here.
Goodness.
Among the 30, and the lists are a little bit different too, so I'm not gonna go too much back and forth. Among the 30 were Asahel, brother of Joab, Elhanan, son of Dodo of Bethlehem, Shammah of Haran, Elika of Haran, Pelez the Paltite, Ira, son of Ikesh of Tekoa, Abiezer of Anathoth, Mebunai the Hushathite, Salmon the Ahohite, Maharai of Netophath, Heleb, son of Bana of Netophath, Ittai, son of Ribai of Gibeah of the Benjaminites, Benaiah of Pirathon, Hiddai of the torrents of Gosh. I love those double A's. Makes me think of Klingon. Okay. Eliabah of Shalmon, the sons of Joshua, Jonathan, son of Shammah the Hararite, Ahiam, son of Sharar the Hararite, Elephalet, son of Ashbai of Maach, Eliam, son of Ahithophel of the Gilonite, Hezro of Carmel, Harai the Arbite, Igal, son of Nathan of Zobah, Bani the Gadite, Zelek the Ammonite, Naharai of Birah, the armor bearer of Joab, son of Zeruiah, Ira the Ithrite, Gareb the Ithrite, Uriah, oh, there's a name, Uriah the Hittite, 37 in all. Now, if you were to count those up, it's less than that. But on the right side, you'll notice that, yeah, it stops with Uriah there too. However, the next one, oh, yeah, before we go any further, there's actually more names in the Chronicles. Okay. So go through some of these names that we've read, not all of them, but a few. Elhanan means God is gracious. Shammah means astonishment. Herod means tremble. Now, we get the same word Herod here as we do from Herod in the New Testament. Tremble. So you can imagine maybe as they were born, they were shaking or trembling or something, and that was the name they were given. I don't know, but I like to think that. Pelez means he saves. Halt or Pelon, depending on which translation you're reading, means escape. Ira means watches the city. Well, I could do that from the Sears Tower. Ikesh means twisted. Man, how would you like that name? Ikesh, twisted. I don't know how he came out of the birth canal. No. Twisted. Tekoa means stockade. Abiezer, father of help. Mebunai or Sibbecai, again, depending on the translation, yeah, God builds. Hushah means haste. Salmon or Eli means shady. Maharai means impetuous. Netophath means dropping. Now, that doesn't mean like an animal dropping. What that means, the idea of that dropping comes from like distilling, like a distillery, the drops of water that come from the distillery. That's what that image should be. Heleb or Heled, it means milk. Ittai or Ithai means with me. Ribeye is a cut of meat. Means pleads with God. Pirathon means princely. Hiddai or Hurai means for God's joy. So think of that when you say hooray, joy. Hurrah!
Well, I think it's obvious these names didn't carry forward very far.
Gosh means quaking. So there were Quakers there too. Baharu means young men's village. Eliabah means God hides. Not God hiding, but God hiding someone. God hides you. No. He who God hides, maybe would be better. Shalban means den of the fox or lair of the fox. And it's considered plural in that reference. Joshin or Hashem means sleeping. Gizzo means shear or quarry. And that comes because Gizzo is both a Hebrew word and an Arabic word. So the Hebrew word means shear. The Arabic word means quarry. Shaggy is from Scooby-Doo. Means airing. Haror means mountain. We heard, Harorite, mountainous. Eliphalet means God delivers. Hashbai means surrounded by brothers. Eliam, God of the people. Ahithophel means foolish brother. Gilo means exile. Ahiam means mother's brother. There's that word, mother's brother. So Dodo means uncle, but Ahiam means mother's brother. Remember there were multiple marriages, multiple wives within the marriage. So that's how those distinctions are made. Sakar means wages. Eliphal means God is my supplication. Means flame. We'll see that again here in a moment. You'll kind of really neat.
So if there was a fire, you yelled,
It can be light too, but yeah, flame. Yeah. Heifer with a PH, not a EI. Means a well. Mekara means stabs. Hezro means enclosed. Harai or Narai means gaping. Esbai means humbled. Gigal means he redeems. Bani means built. Mibar means choice. Hagri means flight. Zelek means fisher, not for fish, but a split in the rock there. Naharai means snorter. Ooh, yeah, that'd be. The kid comes out and Biroth means wells. Now we noticed up there that heifer means a well. Biroth means wells. Heifer is a name of a person. Biroth is the name of a place. So keep that in. Jether means abundance. Gareb means scabby. Ooh. Uriah. Now, how does that word start there? You are. You know what means? Flame. Uriah, although he's an alien, he's a hired mercenary for David from Heth. Means God is my light, God is my flame. And then Heth, or where we get the word Hittite from, means terror. So
What did you say, meant?
means flame or light. So there's my mouse finally. Now we're back to the First Chronicles text now. Now you can go there if you want. I'm just going to read through this, but the list continues in First Chronicles 11 where it stopped. 2 Samuel 23. Zabad son of Ali, Adina son of Shizah the Reubenite, a leader of the Reubenites, and 30 with him, Hanan son of Makkah, and Joshaphat the Mithnite, Uzziah the Ashtorethite, Shammah and Jael, sons of Halam, the Erorite, yeah. Jediel, son of Shimri, and his brother Johah the Tizite, Eliel the Mahavite, and Jerubai and Joshabiah, sons of Elnam, and Ithma the Moabite, Eliel and Obed, and Jazael the Mesobite. Now I want to show. We've got two Eliels there. You see verse 46, the very first word, Eliel, and then verse 47, Eliel. That is a great name. El means what? God. And so basically these guys' name is God is God. That's their name. God is God. now we're back to the narrative back in 2 Samuel. If you want to turn there. Everybody there already? You can do it. Okay. While there was war between the house of Saul and the house of David, Abner, remember him, son of Ner, son of Ner, was making himself strong in the house of Saul. So Abner, remember, was Saul's, he was the commander of the military. He was the highest ranking general. Now Saul had a concubine whose name was Rizpah, daughter of Aiah. And Ishbaal, or Ishbosheth, said to Abner, "Why have you gone into my father's concubine?" Ooh, no, this ain't good already. Days of our lives. The words of Ishbaal made Abner very angry. He said, "Am I a dog's head for Judah? Today I keep showing loyalty to the house of your father Saul, to his brothers and to his friends, and have not given you into the hand of David, and yet you charge me now with a crime concerning this woman. So may God do to Abner," this is him talking now, "so may God do to me, and so may he add to it, for just what the Lord has sworn to David, that will I accomplish for him, to transfer the kingdom from the house of Saul and set up the throne of David over Israel and over Judah, from Dan to Beersheba." Okay, there's trouble in the land. Ishbaal is accusing Abner of sleeping with one of the former King Saul's, Ishbaal's father, concubines. And that's not how that is supposed to work. The harem were always transferred to the new king. And then the new king could
Get rid of them.
do whatever he wanted. So yeah, it's already bad that Ishbaal is accusing Abner of this. But we get the idea based on Abner's response that he hasn't done anything. But whether he did or not, there's an issue here. And Abner, he's been loyal to the house of Saul, and this is the final straw. He says, "You know what? I'm not going to work in this environment. I'm going to go where someone will accept me for who I am." So he's saying, "I'm going to make sure David." Now, Dan to Beersheba, that's an interesting phrase. Dan is the highest point, or the most northern point in what would be the kingdom of Israel. Beersheba is not the most southern, but it is pretty close to the southernmost point in Judah. So he's going to set up the throne of David over Israel and over Judah. So again, an interesting phrasing that they would say that, because it's not, even though it is a divided kingdom, it's not officially divided. Okay. Verse 11, and Ishbaal could not answer Abner another word because he feared him. Ooh. So Ishbaal, or Ishbosheth, realizes that Abner is really mad, and he's so mad that even the king is fearing his highest ranking general. Ishbaal knows he screwed up. The one person who saved his life and brought him to be crowned is now fed up with his nonsense and is defecting, and he is throwing everything he has and everyone he knows behind him. So yeah, things don't look good for Ishbaal now. Verse 12, Abner sent messengers to David at Hebron, saying, "To whom does the land belong? Make your covenant with me, and I will give you my support to bring all Israel over to you." He said, "Good, I will make a covenant with you, but one thing I require of you, you shall never appear in my presence unless you bring Saul's daughter, Michal, when you come to see me." Now, who's Michal? His ex-wife, right? That was what made David Saul's son-in-law. And then after David left, Saul, in spite, takes Michal and gives her to someone else. So yes, so we see this idea of love that David has for Michal. And we knew Michal loved David, so at least in the beginning. Then David sent messengers to Saul's son Ishbaal, saying, "Give me my wife Michal, with whom I became engaged, at the price of 100 foreskins of the Philistines." Y'all remember that story? Okay. Yeah, that was fun. Ishbaal sent and took her from her husband, Paltiel, the son of Laish. And so that was her new husband, Paltiel. But her husband went with her, weeping as she walked behind her all the way to Bahurim. Then Abner said to him, "Go back home." So he went back. Man, this is, you can't.
Soap opera.
Writers can't make this stuff up. Anyway. The cost of defecting is to being David's wife, is to bring David's wife back to him, to the dismay of her current husband. Again, there's no crime done except by Saul, who's now dead and gone. Abner sent word to the elders of Israel saying, for some time past you have been seeking David as king over you. Now then bring it about, for the Lord has promised David, through my servant David, I will save my people Israel from the hand of the Philistines and from all their enemies. Abner also spoke directly to the Benjaminites. Then Abner went to tell David at Hebron all that Israel and the whole house of Benjamin were ready to do. They wanted David, and so Abner goes and speaks to the Benjaminites. Who are the Benjaminites? That's Saul's own people. That's where Saul was a Benjaminite. So, when Abner came with 20 men to David at Hebron, David made a feast for Abner and the men who were with him. Abner said to David, let me go and rally all Israel to my lord the king, in order that they may make a covenant with you and that you may reign over all that your heart desires. So David dismissed Abner, and he went away in peace. Just then, things are heating up when you get those two words. Just then, the servants of David arrived with Joab on the raid, bringing much spoil with them. Remember, Joab is David's highest ranking general. But Abner was not with David at Hebron, for David had dismissed him and he had gone away in peace. When Joab and all the army that was with him came, it was told to Joab, Abner, son of Ner, came to the king, and he has dismissed him and he has gone away in peace. Now, if you were the commanding army or the commander of the armies of one group, and you found out from one of your sentries that the commander of the enemy army had come and the king had sent him away, and that's all the information you got, I would start to question that. And Joab's reaction here is not, I can empathize with Joab's reaction. Then Joab went to the king and said, what have you done? Abner came to you. Why did you dismiss him so that he got away? You know that Abner, son of Ner, came to deceive you and to learn your comings and goings and to learn all that you're doing. So David goes from elation to dejection in this single moment. He's excited that they made a covenant, that he's officially going to become king. And Joab has come along and ruined it all, thinking this is all a deception. Joab, however, is just doing his job. Remember, Joab he has no good feelings for Abner because Abner had killed his brother. Remember that 12 on 12 battle that we read about? Yeah, that was Joab's brother died due to Abner. When Joab came out from David's presence, he sent messengers after Abner, and they brought him back from the cistern of Sirah. But David did not know about it. When the king doesn't know, something's wrong. When Abner returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside in the gateway to speak with him privately, and there he stabbed him in the stomach. So he died for shedding the blood of Asahel, Joab's brother. Afterward, when David heard of it, he said, I and my kingdom are forever guiltless before the Lord for the blood of Abner, son of Ner. May the guilt fall on the head of Joab and on all his father's house, and may the house of Joab never be without one who has a discharge, or who is leprous, or who holds a spindle, or who falls by the sword, or who lacks food. So Joab and his brother Abishai murdered Abner because he had killed their brother Asahel in the battle of Gibeon. Abner was clueless. He didn't know why Joab responded the way he did. He left David on good terms. And here's Joab. I'm going to talk to him privately. And then doesn't even talk, just stabs him. But it's interesting. David curses Joab here in the house of Joab. King can't issue a curse. Only the priest can, or the prophet can. Then David said to Joab and to all the people who were with him, tear your clothes and put on sackcloth and mourn over Abner. And to King David followed the bier, not the drink, the little cart that was carried with the dead body. They buried Abner at Hebron. The king lifted up his voice and wept at the grave of Abner, and all the people wept. The king lamented for Abner, saying, should Abner die as a fool dies? Your hands were not bound, your feet were not fettered. As one falls before the wicked, you have fallen. So David recognizes that Abner was killed in cold blood. And here's a time of mourning. So he's got everyone putting on sackcloth, tearing their clothes, mourning over here. And man, this must have meant a lot to David for him to compose basically a psalm here for the former enemy. But it's interesting that the capital right now is Hebron. That's where David has made his capital. Remember, the former capital was where? In Ramah, that's where Saul was. So a foreign dignitary, if you will, is buried in the new capital of Israel. So all the people wept over him again. Then all the people came to persuade David to eat something while it was still day. But David swore, saying, "So may God do to me and more if I taste bread or anything else before the sun goes down." All the people took notice of it, and it pleased them, just as everything the king did pleased all people. Yeah. We don't know that, do we? So all the people and all Israel understood that day that the king had no part in the killing of Abner, son of Ner. And the king said to his servants, "Do you not know that a prince and a great man has fallen this day in Israel? Today I am powerless, even though anointed king. These men, the sons of Zeruiah, are too violent for me. The Lord pay back the one who does wickedly in accordance with his wickedness." Zeruiah, the sons of Zeruiah, that's Joab and Asahel and Ethnel. And okay, so yeah, they're too violent for him. So David here is fasting, like he told everybody else, although there may be a sense it's got a sour stomach, but he issued the decree, and the fasting was for a day. So he's not, and of course they're asking him to eat. Well, there's no way he's going to break the fast. So by the way, that's where the term breakfast comes from. Breakfast comes.
Where is the suggestion that he has a sour stomach?
Me, right here. My brain. I know how I felt when I was in the military, and there were times when one particular comrade had passed, William Jackson, that I just didn't want to eat. David reiterates his curse. This time he's using the Lord's name in vain. Right here at the very end, the Lord paid back the one who does wickedly. So next week, Ishmael gets his due. David gets the throne. The kingdom gets united. Jerusalem gets attacked, and the ark gets moved. So a lot of getting there.
Remind me who Ishmael.
Ishmael is Saul's son who took the throne after Saul died. He was anointed by some of those in the north when everybody else defected or was already with David in the south. And now Abner has, the commanding general has defected. So things aren't looking good for Ishmael. He's losing all support. But we do find out later that all of Saul, that was part of David's covenant with Saul. Remember, he promised Saul that the line of Saul, he would make sure the line of Saul continued, that he wouldn't let it die out. Well, as we'll find out next week, Ishmael's going to die. And David doesn't like that because he thinks he's killed the last line of Saul. But we're going to find out later on, spoiler alert, that there was another son of Saul, Mephibosheth, which we'll find out about.
Would Michael's child not be part of the line of Saul?
Yeah, but it would be the line of David. It would, but not through the mother.
But Judah is
there's that thought. And that's why when you read the two genealogies of Jesus, one in Matthew, one in Luke, that the lines are different. One goes through the line of Mary, one goes through the line of Joseph.
I believe, I may be misremembering, but I believe the matrilineal succession is, through the mother is Talmudic in origin.
From the Talmud. Yeah, you're correct. Yeah, there's a lot of Jewish tradition that the Talmud is kind of an interpretation of scripture and their thoughts and commentary on stuff. Yeah, definitely. Very, yes. Any questions before we close this out today? I'm already late. No? Okay, well, let's close this out. Thank y'all very much for today. The soap opera continues next week.